All right. We were expecting you guys to get murdered by the person at the door, but I guess we'll continue. Welcome to another episode of Let's Rewatch, the show where we watch movies we loved in our youth and see if they're actually still any good. I'm Nick.
I'm Bret.
I'm Sam.
And I'm Ash. I was trying to do a scary Halloween voice. Yeah.
What was that? You being like Casper the Friendly Ghost? Because you kind of nailed it.
Oh, okay, sure. Is he in this movie?
That needs an explanation.
She sounds like a friendly ghost from Casper.
I'm a friendly ghost.
Okay,
You just sort of waver
I thought you were
your
going
voice
for a Vincent Price thing.
Yeah, well, he could be a friendly ghost, probably.
But that's what Mitch Punpayuk sounds like. Welcome back to the show, Mitch.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on again.
Are you going to do a spooky hello?
Oh, hello.
There you go.
That's better.
I didn't know we were being spooky. Now I feel like I missed out.
My voice just is spooky on its own. I don't have to do a voice.
Send chills down the spine of anyone who listens.
So you may have heard Mitch on our episode from Comic-Con when we talked about Superman, or you may know him from Geek Elite Radio, the Mitch and Rich Show.
That's right. Yeah, Geek Elite Radio is actually the podcast network, and Mitch and Rich Show is one of the shows that's on our network. We have a few shows on there, so it's one big network that I kind of produce and host a lot of different shows.
And you were just at UmaCon?
Yeah, here in my local city, my local hometown, UmaCon. It's nowhere near the size of San Diego Comic-Con, but it's only one day long. But we have some good guests, and it's very intimate, and you get to talk to creators, comic book creators, and it's pretty cool.
And they actually have time to talk to you.
Yes, they do.
Oh, you mean at those smaller cons
Right,
you can actually get up there and have a conversation?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And you talk to cosplayers too?
Yeah, because I myself, I try and do cosplay and crafting every once in a while, or whenever I can, and especially when you go to conventions and stuff. But I love to talk to them to see how it is they come about with their ideas and what kind of background that they usually don't come from any particular background when they go into cosplay. They just kind of stumble into it from what I've understood, what I've asked a lot of different cosplayers. When
we saw you at San Diego, I mean, the time we saw you, you weren't in costume, but were you doing anything that weekend?
J'accuse!
No, I wasn't. I wasn't anything that weekend. I think because I just knew that I was going to be running around a lot and not really being in too many. I wasn't going to be on the floor that much. I was going to be more in panels, so I didn't do any cosplays.
And it's fucking hot at Comic-Con.
It's true.
Yeah, that's my thing. I've always thought if I was ever going to do cosplay, not at San Diego.
Yeah.
No.
And if I did, I would be a Viper pilot from Battlestar.
Nice.
Because it's just a tank top. That's like the only thing I would consider.
Yeah, like if I ever got into shape, I'd do Namor from Marvel Comics. It's just the Speedo.
I bet the people sitting behind you in the panels love that.
Yeah, right?
Did you see it was, I don't know if it was Kimmel or Colbert, one of those shows, they were interviewing a bunch of people from Infinity War, and they did the thing where somebody jumps up in the audience, but it's actually an actor that they've hired. And it was Billy Eichner dressed as Namor yelling about how he's not in the Avengers movies.
No, I didn't see that.
Good.
Speaking of the Avengers, I finally got to see Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of my favorite Marvel movies to date.
Interesting.
Whoa.
Wow.
It was like, I liked it because it was super fun. Like, there was no, like, stupid melodrama. It was just like, no, I turn into an ant, dude, and I'm kind of silly. Isn't it cool?
Did you see Thor Ragnarok?
Oh, fuck.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, how dare you put that in Thor Ragnarok.
I love
haven't even
Thor
seen
Ragnarok.
Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I can tell you it's not as good as Thor Ragnarok.
But I think they're in the same category of the Marvel subcategories. Like they were both really fun.
Yeah, it felt like your usual rom-com type movie that just happened to have a superhero in it. Whereas Ragnarok very much feels like superhero movie. So I think that's why I liked it.
Did you guys see the new Chris Hemsworth movie that's out? That's not at all a Marvel movie.
No, what's he got?
Bad Times at the El Royale.
Yeah, I definitely want to see that.
Right?
I did. I went and saw that this past Saturday. I thought it was amazing. I love Drew Goddard as a writer-director, so I thought that was great.
Yeah, I saw your Facebook post.
Cabin in the Woods was a freaking masterpiece.
Yes, I love
I'm on
Cabin
board
in the
with
Woods.
anything he wants to do.
That was a wild movie, guys.
El Royale?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw Mitch's post and I was like, Bret, we gotta go. The movie starts in like 45 minutes. You want to go? And he's like, sure.
Yeah, definitely on my list. So I guess we want to talk about a spooky movie for Halloween times. So what better Halloween type movie than Halloween? This was on a poll, and it sounds like maybe Bret didn't vote for it.
I did.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
did.
What else was on the poll?
Carrie, Night of the Living Dead, and Sleepy Hollow, which surprisingly, Sam, Sleepy Hollow came in second.
Damn it.
I know. We were
Now
so close.
I was actually
Not really, but
Night of the Living Dead is like, I know that was like earlier, but I think I'd rather watch Dawn of the Dead, the George Romero.
they're both good. I mean, I think Night of the Living Dead is a good movie, personally.
I actually haven't seen it.
Wow.
J'accuse.
Well, I admit.
But yeah, it's kind of shocking. It feels like Night and Dawn, so much time had passed. Like watching Night of the Living Dead, you feel like it's the 30s.
Yeah.
You know, and then Dawn of the Dead feels like the 80s, but I guess it was like a difference of the 60s and the 70s. But they feel so far separated. How could they possibly have been made by the same people?
Well, the black and white, too, doesn't help that feeling.
Yeah.
You know,
also, the cabin in the woods in the mall, does that kind of also help separate the time for you?
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if Night of the Living Dead, they intentionally had them dressed like they were in the 50s or...
Yeah, is it supposed... I think it's supposed to be a period piece, isn't it? Supposed to be...
Oh, maybe.
I
Which
think
reminds
you're
me,
right.
growing up, I always thought that Happy Days was made in the 50s. And somebody had to explain to me, no, this show is made in the 70s. It's set in the 50s. You are now living in the 80s. You know, like forming my concept of a timeline as a child.
Is Happy Days the one with the fawns?
Exactly.
Yes.
Wait, that's not from the 50s?
The setting is the 50s, but it was made in the 70s.
What? Really?
What?
You just learned what I learned at age 8.
I was wondering why he looked so good for being so old.
Yeah, and also Ron Howard.
Yeah, but Ron Howard doesn't look so good for being old, let's be honest.
Wait, the Fonz is Ron Howard?
No.
Oh, okay. I was like,
Ron
no.
Howard was also in Happy.
Oh, okay.
He's the kid in Happy Days, the little kid.
Oh.
So when I was growing up in the 80s, it seemed, and I don't know how old you are, Mitch. I don't know if you had this experience, but it seemed to me like you're an Elvis person or a Beatles person. And when I was growing up, you were into Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th or Halloween.
So
I don't know if anybody else ever experienced that or if that's just something in my mind.
No, I think I would agree because I was a Nightmare on Elm Street kid. So
That's me,
and I'm 36. So Halloween wasn't a thing that I saw until probably 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, or I guess longer. When the Rob Zombie movie came out, the Rob Zombie remake came out. That's probably the first time I watched the original. So
I missed that. Rob Zombie did a remake.
Wow.
I didn't even hear about that.
What?
Oh yeah, like 2008, somewhere around there.
Wow.
He makes some weird ass movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
So Luna and I went to Halloween Horror Nights at Universal, where they've got all the mazes based off of different movies, and there were a few of them where she hadn't seen the movie, and I was I enjoy explaining what the movies are about, and she asked me, okay, what's Halloween about? And I start telling her, it's like, well, it's this summer camp, and one year one of the counselors died, and then years later there were a bunch of kids at the summer camp.
Well, wait,
And-
I don't know anything, and I kind of don't want to know anything.
Well, the point is, we went through the maze, and that maze had absolutely nothing to do with the summer camp.
Oh.
And then it turns out I was a big fat dumbass. I explained to her everything about Friday the 13th and realized that I knew nothing about Halloween.
That's funny.
Yeah. So I'm kind of excited to see this because apparently I completely missed it. Like, I knew, like, the main antagonist in this. That has seeped into culture, but yeah, I was...
It's
I guess,
Michael
pretty
Myers,
clueless.
right?
Right.
Right.
This
So-
is the Michael Myers one?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just the
I didn't want to
fat
say because
bastard.
you just said that you,
Well,
you
I
wanted to
did-
limit.
I did know that. And I
Okay.
did watch the trailer just so I could pick out the correct emoji for the...
Oh, this is fun. I don't think any of us has any clue about the
No,
movie. we're about to watch.
I
I mean, I think Mitch knows quite a bit. He's seen it way more recently.
Yeah, I mean, it's not one of my favorite movies. I've just never really been a horror movie kind of person, but so I don't have it like lodged in my memory. But it does sound like I've seen it the most recent.
Yeah, I haven't
Wait.
seen it since I was a teenager.
Okay, so there are others of us because I've never seen it. Brett,
I've
you've seen it.
never seen it.
Interesting.
so-
This could be good.
Me and Ash used to watch horror movies.
Yeah, wait,
Sometimes.
is this one that you forced me to watch
No.
and I've just blacked out? Oh, okay.
No.
Well, so I'm kind of curious about that. You guys being younger than me, I'm guessing that thing of, you know, either you're into Friday the 13th or Halloween or Nightmare is not a thing for you guys.
No. There was Scream when we were growing up, I guess.
But there wasn't like
Or-
a battling fandoms.
Well, there
sort
was
of thing.
Scream, and then I Know What You Did Last Summer, right? They kind of...
I don't think it was ever like clubs or you have to be this or that. It just kind of
Yeah.
seemed like if you were into this one, you were kind of just not interested in the other.
No, this I think I just had the local video store by my house, and they by the time I was interested in that, they were all like there's a dozen of them of the classics all
Yeah.
lined up all in a row, and it's just like this is what you watch if you want to watch a scary thing.
I'm pretty sure what happened was I told Brett, I don't like scary movies. And he said, we will now watch multiple
All the
over
scary
and over
movies.
again. Yeah.
Hey, he did that to me too.
Yeah.
Scary movies are awesome.
Oh,
Yeah.
I hate them.
I mean, scary movies can be really, really bad, but good scary movies are like
yeah.
Well, when we got into
Like,
really great.
we got into like the 80s, like flesh eating mothers and carnosaur shit. That was pretty great because it was bad.
Or Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
no,
Yeah.
that is not.
I don't think we
horror.
saw that one.
That's a comedy.
Return of the Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. That's an amazing movie right there.
I
Yes.
want to watch The Cube.
Oh, I love that movie.
Is that really a scary, like a Halloween movie though?
It's not a Halloween movie.
I mean, if it's got like a scary monster killing people, I think it falls into the Halloween category.
What's scarier than Unbox What Kills You?
I think that's a different slant, like still scary but not Halloween-y.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to fault you, man. Like what you like.
You can't dress up as The Cube.
Oh my god, what if you did though? You could have like an arm like sticking out of one, like different body parts being murdered different ways.
This room is blue.
If I was going to dress up as a cube, it would be the companion cube from Portal.
Yes,
Aw.
that's a good.
Oh my god, and then Luna could be the girl.
Shell.
Yeah.
Anyway, Halloween is confusing to me because of the sequels. And I think that's another thing about Friday the 13th and Nightmare. Like, these were the movies that had a shitload of sequels.
I had no idea until I heard that the fourth one was coming out that there were even multiple. I'm
But
just saying.
that's what you just said is the confusing part.
Really?
Because I believe the fifth one is coming out.
Oh shit.
At Universal Studios, when they do the Horror Night thing, the maze they have this year is for Halloween 4, which was made in, in the 90s.
Oh.
Wait, how
But
many of these
this
things
movie that's
are
coming
there?
out is simply called Halloween. It's the fifth movie.
Okay.
It's coming out this year, and they did not build a maze based on that one.
So I don't think that's exactly right. So
Okay, correct me because this shit is
no,
Oh shit! Because there's already a Halloween 5 from 1989.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I think there's a lot of Halloween movies.
Oh
guys.
my god!
And
There's
then-
also H2O, and I don't know where that falls in.
That's after
H2O.
5.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
And
7,
then
8.
Resurrection comes after H2O, and then you have the Rob Zombie movies that came out, and now they're doing a remake of Part 2 because this new one that's coming out on today, the one that when you're dropping this, it is going to be a sequel to the first movie. So everything after the first movie is now erased.
Ooh.
Oh,
Okay.
but she's like in the other movies too, right?
Well,
She's in 2.
Yeah, she's in
Oh.
2, and then she's in H2O, and then she's in Resurrection. Because so this is why I think Halloween had the harder time and became the lesser known of the big three horror movies of the 80s between Freddy, Jason, and Michael Myers, is because the third movie has nothing to do with Michael Myers. They totally jump the shark. They go to a different type of thing, and they just kind of use the name Halloween as a franchise name for different horror movies. But then the fourth movie, they go back to Michael Myers, and the story just kind of gets more convoluted and stuff.
I always felt bad for Michael Myers, the actor.
Although it made for a great gag in Baby Driver.
Yes.
Yes, it did. That's true.
Myers.
You know, I think you're totally right, Mitch. But remember, Nightmare almost fell into the same trap because Nightmare on Elm Street 2 didn't have anything to do with dreams. It was about Freddy trying to take over this guy's body and control him in the real world.
You're right.
And
And
then
they
Nightmare
corrected
on Elm
that.
Street 5, he like starts a band in the 80s or something. I don't know.
Well, I don't think you're exactly correct, but if you're talking about how off the wall Nightmare on Elm Street
Oh,
movies
no.
they got pretty ridiculous.
I mean, let's be honest. They started ridiculous. It's pretty ridiculous.
I think it's a very imaginative concept, and people took it way too goofy.
Well, I think
So-
the sixth one, Nightmare on Elm Street 6, which was a new nightmare, which became meta
That was
because
great.
it was the real world, and like he was coming into the real world from the movie.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, like Wes Craven was a character in the movie.
Right, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that one was good. I love the original, of course.
Yes.
In these Halloween movies, does it matter who's playing Michael Myers? Is it like the Nightmare movies where Robert Englund is the same dude for many, many, many years?
So up until they did the Rob Zombie remake, it was always this one gentleman they called the Body. I can't remember what his name is. When
Jesse the Body Ventura?
yeah, it was Jesse, the governor. He came out of Minnesota, did the movie. No, or I'm sorry, not the Body, the Shape. That's what they called him. Okay. And when Rob Zombie made the movie, he used Tyler Mane. I don't know if you remember from the X-Men movies. He played Sabretooth in the first X-Men movie. But they got the same gentleman to come back and do it for this new movie that's coming out this year.
But isn't he in his 60s or something?
Yeah, so they have two people playing the parts. So they have him to be the
wow.
Shape, and then they also have an actual younger gentleman to play the more physical parts.
So it's a Chewbacca situation.
Yes.
It's what's more scary to the millennial audience than old people?
With weapons.
He just takes off the mask and he's like this old man. Oh my god. And then it's like that face melting part in like Raiders.
Raiders.
Yeah.
Well, did you see that really awful horror movie called Skeleton Key? It
No.
takes place in somewhere in like the creepy South, and that's literally what the story turns out to be. Sorry, spoilers. But it's like the whole time you're like, what's going on? It's so scary. It's so scary. And then you find out like, it's the old lady. Oh my God.
Oh my
It's
god.
great.
Is that Kate Hudson in that film?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about voodoo.
Yeah.
Hoodoo?
Wow.
You do.
Might be the babe.
What, babe?
Nope. Let's end that
I
one.
saw my baby.
I was listening to Google Play music, and that song just came up randomly, and it
Yes.
totally made my day. And it was like in the
Yes.
middle of summer. It made no sense, but I rocked it the whole time. Yeah. And I thought of you, Ash, because you know all of the lyrics.
Oh, I do.
I was there for that, and it was like you were rocking out, and then just like that song did not belong on this playlist at all.
Yeah, yeah.
And next, the Shins. What?
So our writer, director, producer, composer is John Carpenter.
Wow.
Holy shit.
Young.
He's doing a real Robert Rodriguez here. So this was his third film. I don't think anybody really paid attention to Dark Star in 74, but he did the original Assault on Precinct 13 in 76, and then this in 1978.
Wow.
And he did, over the course of the 10 years of the 1980s, he did 8 movies, almost one a year for the entire decade.
Wow.
Wow.
And a lot of movies that we love, like The Thing, Starman, Big Trouble in Little China,
Yes.
Escape from New York.
Wow.
Just really great movies. This guy was very prolific and did some awesome stuff in the 80s. And basically ran the whole show for most of them.
I know some other fun facts about this movie. Because I randomly in my news feed there was a little fun facts thing about this. So their budget was super low. They shot the whole movie in 22 days.
Wow.
And then edited it in 3.
What?
Oh.
Wow. And they're editing film in 1978.
Uh-huh.
That's ridiculous.
That can't be real.
I mean,
that can't be true.
Do you
They
think that
must
this
have-
wasn't supposed to be a thing? This was like a quick. They were supposed to sell the movie and get their money back by selling the rights to the movie, but instead they had to release it themselves, and then it blew up and made like over $100 million or something.
Wow. I just spent 3 days editing a short that's like 3 minutes long.
yeah.
Wow.
Do you think they shot it all linearly? It made it easier to edit?
Oh my God, yeah. Just
They just had the camera connected to the
Yes.
flatbed. Just
old school,
ran
like,
it right on through.
That's
That's a
insane.
solid theory. Solid theory.
Yeah.
There you go.
What about the mask? Do you know that piece of trivia?
I don't. Tell me about it.
So the mask, when they sent the prop guy out to go to a costume shop to buy the mask, he bought the scariest thing he could see, and it was a William Shatner mask, and from the original Star Trek. So when they got it back, they flipped it inside out, painted it white, and that's the Halloween mask.
Oh my God, it's
Yes.
Shatner?
Yeah,
It's the Shat?
Wow, you've just ruined this movie. I won't be able to see anything else.
Oh, you just made it so much better. Can we like dub in William Shatner lines now to this movie?
Well, I don't know that he talks.
Exactly. It's perfect. You just add the dialogue in.
Oh.
Yeah, from behind the mask.
And so it should become as no
my God.
surprise, but there's not a ton of actors that you'll recognize in this movie. I think it basically boils down to Donald Pleasance and the world's introduction to Jamie Lee Curtis. This would have been her first
This
film.
is her introduction?
Yeah. Like she'd done
Wow.
some TV. After this, she did Prom Night, Terror Train, The Fog, Halloween 2. I think when you talk about that concept of the Scream Queen, I think this is like the archetype for that.
yes, yeah. She definitely set that up. She's the original Scream Queen, I would say. I mean, she was part of all those movies. So and I don't think it was like she didn't do a comedy until Trading Places. I don't think, right?
I think you're right. I was just looking this
What?
up, and she
Wow.
really kind of broke out of the mold from Trading Places, then Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was most of her. Well, I wouldn't say most of her 80s because I guess Trading Places was pretty early. But her first few years, that was her identity in the world.
And now
Did you-
she's doing Halloween again. Full circle.
Full circle.
I see that. I actually want to see this movie in theaters, but everybody's running the same headline. Like I've seen it everywhere. A Halloween movie for the Me Too generation, and
Oh, no.
it's the most
Okay.
ridiculous thing. Like, are they just saying that women should go around and kill everyone who's attacking? I mean, maybe, but
Well, maybe they're making the point that she like defends herself? Because doesn't she like defend herself in the movie?
I'm pretty sure most of the horror movies end with the bad guy being slain. So, yeah.
I'm enjoying, Brett, that you kind of just like convinced yourself that, yeah, that is what the movie is and that's cool. It seems like you started with disgust and finished with like, all right.
The tagline is like a horror movie for me too, and it just rings ridiculous in my ears, but it makes sense.
I would be interested to see if maybe that's accurate. Like, could there be something in the movie that makes that true? Or is it just vapid headlines?
That's what I'm saying is, like, doesn't she, like, I mean, I don't know much about the movie, but I get the vibe that she, like, instead of running and hiding, she decides to go after Michael Myers, and, like, she's proactive instead of, like, running and hiding.
She's like, I'm sick of
Yeah,
this
but the Me Too movement is not about people killing people. You know,
Well,
it's about
no.
a very specific thing. And you could make a horror movie out of that. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah.
I'm just saying the idea of a woman standing up to a man who is an abuser could be the thing that they're trying to parallel there. But the fact that if she murders him doesn't really ring super true. But I'm just saying I could see that being what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
It also seems like just like a corporation trying to co-op something
Yeah.
very political.
How can we
Or
spin
somebody
this?
trying to put something in a headline that gets clicks.
Yeah. I mean, I know in the trailer for the new movie, every time I see it, I get the very much a Sarah Connor from Terminator 2 feel from her. Like she's, worked out and she's weapons trained and stuff like that. And she's ready to go after Michael kind of thing. So,
Yeah, it kind of looked like that. I mean, I'm ready for it. I want to see it. I think that might be an awesome, like, I don't know about a flip on this genre, because like this genre kind of has its things, but like, you know, the fictionalizing of like a bunch of investors go and hunt down Bernie Madoff and beat him to death. Like, it would be hilarious. Like this as a genre, I want to see it.
But that's not Me Too. That would be the Occupy Wall Street horror movie.
Just like anyone who's ever wronged anyone, and then there's a mob that goes and kills
that's
them.
kind of like The Purge, isn't it?
Damn it!
It exists.
They've beaten me to. Did you see the new one? I liked the new one.
I didn't watch the new one or the series or the TV series yet.
I haven't seen this show.
I haven't either.
I just watched the first movie for the first time, and it was okay. That's kind of interesting. I'm kind of
Really?
interested in seeing more.
I like the
It
second
was
one.
not
the
like
most.
super great, but it's like okay. I'm not mad. I watched this.
Yeah, I like the second one the most because I thought it's very much a Punisher movie.
Yeah, and the new one has a lot of really interesting like political commentary in it, which I wasn't expecting. But like not just the obvious, they're telling us to kill each other and we shouldn't probably do that. But you got to watch it. There's a lot of really interesting imagery.
Well, they
in it.
had a maze at Horror Nights this year for it, and it definitely had a political vibe going on.
Yeah.
And I feel like as stupid as a basic concept as it is, underneath that is the opportunity for that commentary on society. There's some potential in that idea for sure, without giving it credit and suggesting it's an intelligent idea. But there's some potential there. So what are we expecting from this? Brett, you've seen it as a child.
Yeah.
Review done.
I've seen it a while ago, and the one thing, and I'm pretty sure I'm right, but I always get the theme songs mixed up, and I think I know where this is the one that everyone should know, the theme song. I'm pretty sure.
I don't know if I know it. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Is that one?
Yeah.
I think it's
Okay.
that one, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's
That's
either
what I'm
that or
looking forward
Friday the
to.
13th.
Would you place a bet on that, sir?
No, we're never betting again on anything. No,
Aw.
thank you.
You guys are not fun.
But no, I think this is gonna be dope. I remember Jamie Lee Curtis being awesome, but I might be mixing it up with other Jamie Lee Curtis horror movies. Or I saw Halloween H2O, and I might be mixing it up with that, but I remember it was pretty cool.
I can't believe that's the name of a movie. It sounds like something the McElroys would come up with.
It's like it's Halloween water.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like the water you buy at Universal Horror Nights when they're like, they should do that if you're listening, Universal.
So I'm kind of excited to watch this. I was more excited. I think Mitch might have ruined something for me.
Oh no.
Damn it,
just,
Mitch.
having never seen any Rocky movie, I just watched all of them and enjoyed the hell out of that process. Like over the course of a week and a half, going through that journey. And by the time I got to Creed, I was crying in that movie. And I was kind of like, okay, now I'm going to buckle in for Halloween. I'm going to watch all the Halloween movies. But you have just woken me up to the idea that that's probably a miserable slog. I don't know if I want to do that.
I'm sorry. I'm just saying the third movie takes a real far tangent, and then you should it'll come back, and then you'll have a lot to watch. You have more than what you got in the Rocky series, so.
So I guess I kind of have to ratchet down to just like basing my expectations on this one movie. And so I'm expecting a very gritty, low budget, hopefully one of those examples of raw genius. A young John Carpenter with $50 in his pocket sounds like an interesting thing. So that's what I'm hoping for, and I hope it's good.
All right.
Ash, what are you expecting?
I don't know a lot of. I didn't know really anything except that it was the Michael Myers guy. I didn't realize this was John Carpenter, to be honest, until we started talking about it. So that makes me excited because before that, the little I saw the trailer, I was like, oh no. I definitely don't think visually this is going to hold up. I will throw that out there. It looked super dated, but I'm excited that it's John Carpenter, so I'm like kind of on the fence of whether or not I should be excited or I don't know. I've never seen it. I'm interested.
Well, based on what you know of something like Evil Dead, does that give you more or less confidence than, a genius director with $50 in his pocket making a scary movie?
Yeah, that's true. Totally. Yeah.
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah. I don't know. We will see. I will say I'm not a fan of the slasher genre. Like I like horror films, but slashers, I think because the idea of some like dude coming after me with a knife is too real. It's like, fuck, that could really happen. So I find like a, what's the one with the guy and he's like a serial killer, but he just kills women. American Psycho, right? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Scariest fucking movie in the world, in my opinion. That is hands down scary. Because that could happen to me.
Yeah.
It's horrifying. So anyway, not a fan of that.
This is the horror movie for the Me Too generation.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe that's why.
So, Sam, you love being scared. What are you expecting?
Okay, I think what I have to say is more about what I hope it's not. And I know I'm going to be...
Not about aliens.
Well, good.
Well, Nick, you don't know.
Fair enough.
So
Make promises you can't keep.
I really don't do well with gore.
That's why I don't like slasher movies, too.
Yeah, and I hope it's not gore porn or torture porn. I'm going to have a rough time if it is. So there's that. Like,
I actually don't know, but I think like the extended run this movie had in theaters worldwide would say that it's probably not gore porn like some horror movies are.
okay.
I mean, they had, what did you say, $30,000 budget? Just, set those expectations low for the visual effects.
Yeah. Okay. That's true.
I think you'll probably be okay.
But that's the thing is like when you set your when you have a low budget, instead of getting really high quality fake stuff, you just stuff stuff with real meat. You know, like it's gonna be real gore.
Ew.
Brett, that's not what I do. I've never stuffed things.
You could buy a steak for $5 and you got real meat parts laying all over.
Or, I mean, if you want to make a really scary movie, it costs very little to just kill an actual homeless person and put them in the movie.
Oh, no.
Dark.
And that would be very scary.
Dark.
That would be very scary, but for different reasons.
I really want to see Brett and Ash's parody of a horror film where like steaks just fall out of people when they get killed. Like just they start fucking ribeye just slaps on the floor.
Sausages.
For like intestines. Can we just let's just redo famous horror scenes but with meat?
Oh god.
I do not want to set dress for this shoot. Please and no thank you. Unless I can do it while the meat's not there and then
Oh yeah. I forgot you're like a vegetarian. Whoops.
Did I tell you guys I had Salt and Straw's blood ice cream? Their seasonal flavor.
Excuse me.
Jesus.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
It's 30% pig's blood.
Oh.
And it's just this gross, like dark red, just thick, unpleasant experience. Don't do it.
I'm sorry,
I
but
would
like
not.
you gave me so much shit for stuff that I made you drink and Let's Drink. Not one of them ever had real animal product in it like that.
Literal pig's blood was better than most of the drinks you made.
Wow.
Tell them about the other one that you ate.
The other one was pretty good. It was mealworms candied like
Are you fucking kidding me? No. You're gonna tell me that that's better?
peanut brittle. Yeah, so and then they crunched them up in a little tiny bit. So it's like you're eating bugs. Ooh, it's spooky, but it's just peanut brittle with some bugs in it.
You ate the other one too that was bone marrow.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
bone marrow is delicious. I will.
You're drawing weird lines, Ash.
Look, it's the meat butter. That's all I can say.
You could crack open the bones and slurp out the goop in there, but any of that stuff around the bones, all that blood, oh.
Did Jimmy Stewart just walk in?
I'm not eating bugs.
All right, I want to hear what Mitch is expecting from Halloween.
Yeah, I guess I'm done then.
Or, sorry, Sam.
Ash and Brett just took that away there.
All right, what
We're
were
real
you thinking,
assholes.
Sam? Sorry.
I don't know if I have anything else to say. I just wanted to be a dick and call you guys out.
Well, thank you. That's why we're married.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know much about this movie. I hope it's not too torture porn, and I hope it's more on the cheesy side than the actually scary side. So,
Okay.
take it away, Mitch.
I would say that I mean, like I said, I guess within the last decade watched it. I think I'm maybe looking more for how the suspense is built in this movie as compared to other horror movies. Kind of more the thing that I always enjoy. Kind of like being on the edge of your seat.
That's
Yeah.
very scholarly insight.
Or
Well, again,
you thinking just
30
in general, or is there something specific about this movie that you think makes it unique?
You know, I think that was the thing about Halloween for me is that it didn't have anything that made it unique because it was I know when I first saw it, obviously 10 years ago, I'd already lived through all the Jason movies and stuff. So the slow killer coming after you with the mask on was a old hat by that point. So I don't remember anything really sticking out to me about the Halloween movie as opposed to other slasher films.
But was Halloween the first one to do that?
I don't know. I don't know
a
which
good
one came out
question.
first, Friday the 13th or Halloween.
Yeah, it was definitely before Nightmare.
Yeah.
I think this was first.
Yeah, Friday the 13th was 2 years later.
So they
Wow.
invented that. But that's something to be said when, like, you've seen the thing so many times. Like, that was the problem I had with the holding of the boom box and Say Anything. I was like, I've seen that so many times that it took the power away from if I had seen it as the original the first time, I think.
Yeah, and I think you've got to try to watch this movie with as fresh a perspective as possible.
Makes sense.
So we're going to pause recording. We're going to watch... God, I almost said Friday the 13th. I almost said Nightmare on Elm Street. We're going to watch Halloween
Nick's
And
going to
when
watch
we're-
a different movie and
and try to watch the one from 1978, and then we'll get back on the mic and see what we think.
No more wire hangers.
It is so hard to be in sync with you guys through Skype.
Yeah, with the lag in the call, that was tremendous.
Brett, please, for the love of God, cut out my attempt at that.
So I guess we should address the elephant in the room that this movie took a lot from Burn After Reading.
What?
There was a long time when nothing happened, and then it eventually built up to a really great last 5 minutes. And also somebody was hiding in a closet.
Interesting. Yeah, I kept thinking how, like, it's interesting to see the progression of slasher films now, because it's like, back then it's like, okay, 3 or 4 people all, die or whatever. But it's like, now it's like, you gotta be killing somebody every 10 minutes,
But what it did is exactly what Mitch was looking for. Like, it built so much suspense.
Yeah.
Like,
I liked it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, if you compare them nowadays, it's interesting how they've evolved.
Yeah, and I think having that perspective and having that expectation made it so much more suspenseful. Like, I was like, just kill her already. Come on, please. Stop. Keep me hanging. Just kill her, please.
I know every time the camera panned, I was like, he's going to be there. Oh, he's not there.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking about, it. For me, a lot of this fell flat, and I'm thinking, why? Why is that?
Wow, that is surprising. I thought it was fantastic.
This is one of, if not the first movie of its kind. And I feel like if you have an idea for a movie, okay, I have a horror movie in mind. There's a crazy guy, and he stabs and kills people. The follow-up is like, okay, but what does he do? Does he set traps? Does he capture them in a room? And no. He's crazy and he stabs people. Yeah, but what's the hook, right? In 1978, the hook of this guy broke out of a mental hospital and is stabbing people is horrifying.
Yeah.
And now we expect so much more.
Yeah.
You almost expect something like Supernatural or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this did have a little bit of kind of a supernatural button. Like, he got shot how many times and was gone? Like,
well, my perspective on that was, wait, why is this ending? It's just suddenly the music starts swelling as if the movie's over, but the movie's not over.
yeah.
Right? He just fell out the window and now he's going around the back to go in the back door. And so we need to go downstairs. We need to catch him. Like, it's just the next scene is supposed to happen.
Well, Halloween is over. He's only evil on Halloween.
He only has his mythical superpowers on Halloween.
I guess.
Well, like the story that Lori sets up with Tommy is that the boogeyman only comes out during Halloween. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of what it's supposed to be going for.
I guess I could have dug that if we'd seen, like, oh, now it's midnight, now it's another day.
Yeah.
No.
I think
They
the idea
shot
was just to have, like, a
5 times.
suspenseful ending. Like, oh, the killer got away. But I didn't feel like, oh, he's going up the stairs. But I did feel like, oh, he's still on the loose and this doctor let him go again.
Yeah.
Yeah, this doctor sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Mike Myers might not have been a psycho murderer if he had a different doctor.
Well, I mean, he killed as a child.
Yeah, but kids say the darndest things. Like,
Oh,
you know?
my God.
No. Brett.
It's literally like our criminal justice system is based on the fact that kids do different shit than adults. Like...
Absolutely. Like, okay, he killed somebody when he was 6, so you take him to this institution where you rehabilitate him.
Yeah.
I think we're supposed to, from the beginning, assume, oh, he killed somebody, therefore he's evil incarnate.
Well, no, the doctor says that he tried to work with him. And
That's
flags,
when I
man.
finally started getting on board with the story. You're right.
yeah.
But I think earlier in the movie, we were supposed to be afraid of him for no particular reason. And then eventually he did get around to giving us a little bit more of a reason.
I mean, if I ever have a doctor that's just like, I could see the evil in his eyes, the devil incarnate, I'd be like, you should have your fucking license revoked.
You're a bad
Like,
doctor.
that kid, he's 6 years old. You don't see the evil in his eyes.
Yeah.
But he was.
But it's a great, creepy concept. Like, I wish I could watch that movie not knowing that it was a child and that reveal.
Oh, I didn't.
Tremendous.
I didn't know. And, like, in the beginning, she's like, Mikey. And I'm like, how does she know his name? And Bret's like, didn't you see the little kid hand? And I was like, it's a little kid? Oh, my God.
So the interesting part was that was spoiled for me because of people tweeting a gif of the little kid being demasked on Twitter. And
unfortunate.
But here's the thing, is it was a weird reverse of my expectations because I knew it was a little kid, so I assumed that they were trying to convince us that he was going to murder her, but I assumed he was just going to like pull a prank on his older sister to like set the tone. Like we've seen that before in horror films where it's surprise, like I'm not really a murderer, I'm just your kid brother, like. And then when he actually murdered her, I was like, what the fuck?
I think that's what I was like really into about this movie is the earnestness with which they did every single scene. Like there was none of that like meta, oh, you've seen this before, let me subvert your expectations. And like that in itself flipped the whole thing for me. And like I wasn't expecting anything that happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the movie that they would be subverting.
Right.
Yeah.
These are the expectations that you're supposed to expectate. Did it bother anybody else? The way this scene in the beginning begins, they're on the couch, they're making out, and he says, let's go upstairs.
Yeah.
Right? And then the time it takes the kid to walk around to the back door, walk upstairs, he's like,
girl.
All right, I'm heading out. I'll see you later.
Yeah. I told Bret, I was
they
like,
do?
I told Bret, I'm like, well, he didn't last very long. Like, he was.
So is this the movie that like set up the rules that like if you're gonna have sex in a horror film, you're gonna die? Because consistently, everyone who was murdered was either having sex or going to go have sex.
So I really want to talk about that. There's a knee-jerk reaction that says, ha ha ha, she died because she took her top off. Or you could say, oh, that's a creepy director. He just wanted to have topless girls. But am I reading more into it? Am I making up too much headcanon, this idea that this 6-year-old child had a traumatic reaction to
That's what
seeing people sexually active?
That's what I was saying to Bret. Yeah, I was like, so what? People having sex makes them want to kill? Like,
yeah, Michael Myers is basically just like fucking alt-right Twitter, like these fucking women walking around using their bodies.
Hey, he murdered
what if you're
the guy.
6 years old and you're not quite screwed on straight and you see this guy doing things to your sister? Or you see your sister willingly doing these things. Like, I wish they played that up because I feel like I'm making it up.
No, I mean, I felt kind of the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's so many layers to that. Like, there's the like earnest in the movie layer where like the kid is experiencing these things and the trauma can be explained. But then there's like the meta layer where there's like a team of adults writing this thing where like their premise is sex causes the murder, and like that I feel like is way more societally ingrained, as far like that's the thing that's maybe problematic about the movie, if anything, is that the trope is just I made the alt-right Twitter joke, but like it's kind of there, but like in the minds of the writers.
But isn't there also this, just from an audience perspective, this, or maybe me being like a 12-year-old at a certain point watching these movies, like these are the two things that you are not allowed to see, horrifying stuff and naked girls. These are the things that your parents say you're not allowed to watch. And it's natural to have them both together in this one product that if I get to see it, it's super exciting.
Is that some like weird Pavlovian like thing that he accidentally conditioned himself to? He was like getting randy, watching his sister get it on, and then there was horror stuff. So then it cross-contaminated.
Oh, I thought you were talking about John Carpenter for a second.
No,
I was,
no.
like, really confused.
Sorry, I'm talking about the murderous child.
The murderous.
Yeah, like
I would also say that it has to. I would think that it would have to do something with the fact that it's Halloween night and his older sister, who's supposed to be babysitting, isn't watching him, isn't paying attention to him. So it's more of a like, hey, you're not. This is supposed to be about me, but you're not paying attention to me. I mean, it goes on with in the present day when he ends up killing only other babysitters that aren't paying attention to their kids. Well, Lori is paying attention to the kids, but
But he doesn't try to murder her until she abandons the kids.
That's true too. I mean,
or she catches him.
So he's not the alt-right, he's the alt-left, Brett.
He's like
he's a helicopter mom.
Yeah, helicopter murderer.
What's helicopter murderer?
He's like a helicopter parent, but a murderer.
What?
You never heard that? The
No.
parents that go and like there was that trend of what was the new one? Lawnmower parents? I like that one. But it's the trend of parents that like you've heard these stories like excuse me, professor at the college, my son is failing your class and I need to talk to you about that. Like
And-
the parents that just are always hovering above their kids.
Yeah, and it's like they always know what's on their devices. They're always controlling everything, not letting their kids make a lot of decisions for themselves. They never have unsupervised time, like always have to be within eyesight. So
that's
Helicopter
Michael
murder.
Myers. He's a helicopter parent, is what you're saying?
yeah, he's the avenger of non-helicopter babysitters.
Yeah. I mean, really,
Wow.
he was doing them a favor, killing those bad babysitters.
Yeah, he's basically just like an oversight committee, really.
He didn't go for the kids. Like, he immediately, like, he could have gone right and gotten the kids, but he went left. He swiped left.
And this transcended killing babysitters. He's like killing people who have basically broken and entering into strangers' houses. Like they're up in somebody's bed having sex.
Yeah.
It's not even their friend's house. It's neither of their houses.
No.
Is this what
Monsters.
happens when you leave your children with babysitters?
That's what I was
This is
telling
off
Bret.
the chain.
I was like, I never did any of this shit. I was like,
I knew these people. And
oh
they were-
God.
Really?
all of them were fucking horrible in high school. There's that one guy I knew that got like his family was like on vacation in Europe or something, and he is like living with like 10 or 15 friends, drinking their grandparents' entire wine cellar empty at their grandparents' house for like several weeks before they got busted. It was stupid. Like this shit totally happened, and everyone deserved to be murdered by fucking Michael Myers.
Well, I'll tell you why I really think those two deserve to be murdered. And I had to go back and watch it, and this is what he said.
Okay. I think you're gonna say. I hope you're saying what I think you're gonna say.
First, I rip your clothes off.
Yes.
Then you rip my clothes off. Then we rip Lindsay's clothes off. Lindsay was the child.
Yeah.
Right.
Ew,
And she says,
what the-
totally. What
Yeah.
was that?
Yeah.
Okay, because I thought there's too many girls with L names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was the other girl that they were talking about.
Well, that would be Annie. The one without an L name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was
he just being
Annie
gross,
and Lori.
Lori.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Lindsay and Linda. There were a lot of L's.
Yeah. But like the second he said that, I was like, who's Lindsay? And then like it cuts to the next scene and she like says the girl's name and I was like, what?
What?
Yeah.
Oh, I totally missed that.
Yeah,
That's
no, it
terrifying.
caught me off guard. I was like,
Oh.
that is weird.
Fuck that
there's-
pedo, man.
there's
He
another
deserved it.
Yeah, there's another super weird line in this movie too, where when they find the dead dog and the police officer, like the doctor's like, looks like he ate it, and the police officer's like, it was probably a skunk that did it. And I'm like,
Yeah,
since
what?
when do skunks eat dogs? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Well, my favorite one was, and this act, I feel like I'm gonna try and use this at some point. Was the doctor's talking to the cop, and the cop's like, "Yeah, I got a feeling this is, this you're off base here." He's like, "You've got the wrong feeling." But, like, Like, that wasn't even a good line, but his delivery was just like, that is so good.
I also thought it was great that when Annie and Lori pull up to the hardware store where her dad's at and investigating the crime, he's like, "Oh, it's just a bunch of kids," and she's like, "Well, how do you know that?" And he's like, "Oh, they stole a Halloween mask, a couple knives, and broke a window." It's like, I think you should be worried about a Halloween mask and a bunch of knives.
Yeah. Like, and the rope. Like,
Oh yeah, the rope.
What makes you think those are children who did that? Like, what?
children steal beer and candy. Like,
Yeah.
they don't steal knives.
What kind of hardware store has Halloween masks?
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Why did she pull the car over?
I don't know.
Yeah, she's like, oh,
Yeah.
look, it's my dad. Don't let him know we're smoking weed. Hey, Dad.
Yeah.
So
as
I
they
couldn't
were
get this
rolling
out of
down
my
the
head.
window,
They were
I was
listening
like,
to Don't Fear the Reaper, which
Yeah.
they should have really used in this movie. Like, once you've paid for that, use
Yeah.
it in the movie. But as they're driving away, I'm just thinking, don't smell the reaper. How could he not?
So that's what I said too. I was like, he's clearly going to smell it. And then
Yeah.
when she's like, his face is always like that. And I was like, because you're probably always smoking pot and he can smell it. Did it bother anyone else that, like, the three main girls looked way older than high school girls?
Oh, my gosh.
So
Brett and I were talking about
I don't
that.
know how old they were in this, but I feel like they probably weren't actually much older.
Probably they were probably like 21, 22, but they looked older than, like, there's the shot with her in class with other children and she looks like when she's first introduced, Bryce and I thought she was the mom of this kid.
I was confused at first, too, because
Yeah.
she's dressed, like, super professional. And then
And she's got like these keys to this house for some
Yeah.
reason. I don't
Exactly.
really
Jamie
know
Lee
why.
Curtis was 20 years old.
Yeah, so she
Wow.
was like
Yeah.
barely older than the age she was supposed to be.
Yeah.
I feel like people tend to have the same haircut, like from early adulthood through like several years, and I feel like, you know, when we see people who are older than us, the haircut is what is like, oh, they look way older. And when you see
Yeah.
that haircut on a younger person, like an old person's haircut on a younger person, you're like, oh, that's like an older person.
Yeah, she had mom hair for sure.
I don't
I
know.
think fashion had a lot to do with it too.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I like that you brought up that it was mom haircut, but it's like, it's 1978, and you know, maybe it's a mom haircut now, but that was in for kids, for teenagers
Totally.
then.
Yeah, I think it's a lot to do with fashion and
Yeah.
how it's different now, and I think she was supposed to be frumpier than the other girls was like the
Yeah.
vibe I got, but yeah, I just instantly assumed she was the mom.
They all seem pretty old.
Throwing it down.
With the
I
totally.
mean, I guess that's what happens when you drink and smoke and party that much. Like, they're really not sleeping. They're not eating well. Not taking care of their skin.
Girl, you look rough for 16 or whatever.
Yeah.
You
well,
look like you belong in Halloween.
that's like when we went to the LCD sound system show. There was this girl, like, she was probably close to our age, but damn, she looked old. And she was, like, dropping acid and taking E, and, like, her hair was all falling out of her
Ready
head.
to retire. Like,
Drugs will do that.
Jesus.
Yep. So, you know,
Yeah.
maybe
Actually,
that explains it.
specifically meth. Meth will do that.
I don't think she was on meth, but
But that's what
something
what
rough.
makes people look like really older than they
Yeah.
are, and like their teeth and hair fall out.
and their skin gets all wrinkly.
yeah,
rankly.
But hey, there was some really cool cinematography.
Oh,
in
yeah.
this movie.
Yeah,
The
there was a moment.
storytelling through it was amazing.
Totally. Yeah, there was one moment where we were watching it and I was just like, oh my God, that shot was awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
the one. There's the one where the kid, after he smushed his pumpkin, and it's like he's standing there watching him, and then he walks, and the camera follows him. He gets in the car. We get in the car. We see the kid still walking through the window of the car.
Yeah.
He drives up next to the car, and then like idles next to him, and then pulls away. And the whole time, like, the shot is just seamless. It's perfect.
yeah, that one and the one I shouted at was as they were running across the street. Jamie Lee Curtis was running back to her house away from Michael Myers, and it was just like this. I don't know. It felt huge. This this big moment as they and the pillar of the house passes in front of the camera, and it's like every part of this, her whole run up, the whole where they stopped, everything perfectly framed, and I don't know, it's just
a lot of long takes with a lot of blocking going on, both blocking of camera and the actors.
What about that shot where it's the two girls? I think they're driving to their babysitting jobs, and the sun is setting and shining almost directly into the camera in this like way more beautifully composed shot than the point of that scene deserved.
Yeah.
It was like, it was like a scene from This Is Us, where the light is just like pouring into the lens and like putting her face in silhouette really dramatically, but they're just driving to go to their babysitting job.
Yeah, and that's what you don't get as much on digital anymore, is those really beautiful film flares that you would get. That's a specific film look. And that's why, you know, people like J.J. Abrams have to put them in after the fact.
Yeah.
You don't get them as much with digital.
Yeah.
I thought the opening scene after the kid unmasks himself, or they unmask the kid and the crane shot like just keeps going back further and further.
Yeah.
I was like, they did this with $30,000 budget? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I was like, that seemed crazy.
But
Yeah.
what they did so well is they knew how to balance it all. Like, they didn't go crazy with their shots. Like, there was a lot of really beautifully simple and elegant shots to balance out the one or two crazy shots.
Like watching it was like believably 30,000, but like
but like expert cinematography and directing. Like, they knew what they wanted to accomplish. They brilliantly told it with visuals and not just with dialogue or like hand holding and over explaining the story. Like, I'm really impressed.
Yeah, like advice I've heard from other directors before that they did really well in this film is to like save your scenes with several shots for like the key scenes that you need that, and for the other ones like try to do it in one or two shots. And that's why like a lot of those scenes, especially in the beginning, are just one take shots that are just one really long shot that they otherwise would have had to do, you know, they could have done in multiple different shots and angles and whatever, but because they did it in one, I think that probably helps speed up the editing time. That's helped speed up the shooting time. You know, it costs less money. Yeah. And then it also really built up the suspense. Like
that's what I was hoping you were going to get to.
Yeah.
Totally.
It dragged out these long, slow, suspenseful shots.
Because not only is like not technically not a lot is happening in the shots. It's a guy standing there watching other people. But because you're expecting him to do something, and because the shot keeps going, as a viewer, you're left there thinking like, oh my god, what's going to happen? Something needs to happen. Like,
well, like, and you know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like we were making jokes before about the the movie for the Me Too movement, but it's like a guy standing across the street staring is like honestly not an unusual thing, and that like in this context we know he's a murderer, and so it's frightening, but like you know that could be any fucking dude.
Yeah. No, totally. No, dude, I was at the there's a dog park across the street from my house. I was at the dog park once and I started walking home, and this guy runs up to me and he's like, "Hey, how are you doing? What's going on?" And like starts hitting on me. And I was like, "What the fuck? Who are you? Where did you come from?" Like, that's not unusual. And then the like how Michael Myers would like drive by and slow down and like stalk at people.
Yeah.
That happens to us all the time when we take Spence out, because we live on a busy street, and we'll go and like take him out to go to the bathroom at night. And I can tell you about like 5 times so far of people who like slow to a crawl and drive creepily past and then speed up as they go away.
You do have a very handsome dog.
That's true.
He does attract attention, yes, everywhere he goes.
But a lot of those scenes in this movie were played in daylight, which seemed unusual and was really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, just brazen. Just, I am standing across the street.
I think darkness in movies like this can be a crutch. And if you can make it that suspenseful in broad daylight, there's something there.
Yeah.
Totally.
And also, what I think this film did really well that added to the suspense was their sound editing. Like, the timing of the music and when and where it came in and how often and how little they used it was just really brilliant. Like, towards the end, when you knew what he was up to, they kind of would enter or add his theme in before you'd even see him. And that, like, in the beginning wouldn't have worked, but in the end, it added so much more suspense.
And the Vader breath. His,
Yeah. Yeah.
But, like, it was really creepy at the end when I was just like, oh my God, I hear him. Where is he? Where is he?
Yeah. But, like, that's exactly, like, what the director wanted you to feel. You know? Like, he wanted you to feel like you were the doctor and Jamie Lee Curtis in the house. Like, he could be anywhere. He could be behind me. He could be, like, where is he? Like, phantom noises. Everything sounds like him.
Yeah.
It's
it was
really brilliant.
Playing the audience like a fucking puppet.
It worked.
And
I'm
I
glad
think that this movie established the rules for stuff like that. Like when you've got a music stinger to accent something, you know, the idea of a slow walking monster can just suddenly disappear when he turns around a corner.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys brought up the music because as I was sitting down to watch this movie with Bryce, I was like, oh, have you ever seen this movie? It's directed by John Carpenter. And he was like, oh, John Carpenter inspired synthwave. And I was like, what? So the soundtrack from this movie and from a lot of John Carpenter's movies actually inspired synthwave, which if you don't know what that is, that's like 80s sounding music that's done now modernly. So it's like a modern version of 80s synthy music. But that synth, you know, really inspired a lot of creators and inspired the music for Stranger Things.
Wow.
So
It's like, it's a sound that is... It's really easy to make synth music sound bad and fake.
Yeah.
And you know that he's using a synth in this movie, but it's just like so well put together that it doesn't stand out from the film. It accented every scene, but didn't call attention to itself.
Well, I mean, we've seen the synth soundtrack go real wrong, like Lady Hawk.
Ooh, yeah.
yeah.
You know?
That's the exact polar opposite
Yeah.
of this.
I think that was why it was important for them to get John Carpenter to compose a couple of the songs for the new movie too, the new Halloween.
Oh, wow.
Got to have that feeling.
Like new songs?
Yeah.
Cool.
Wow.
Very cool.
Wow,
I
that's cool.
really want to see the new one now.
Yeah, I'm really curious. I think what shocked me the most about this film is how much it relied on like classical filmmaking and cinematography.
Yeah.
Like it had a very like modern kind of story, like kind of a candy fluff murder story, but had all of the bones of like a classic Hollywood film, which I would love it if the new film had that same
The
feel.
tragic backstory and the you were saying that during the drive up scene to the mental hospital, and you're like, this has way more plot than I thought it did.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it would have much plot at all. Like, I also didn't know anything about it. I had zero knowledge of this film aside from, like, what he looked like with his mask and the knife.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, like, slasher films nowadays don't really have
No.
too much plot.
Yeah, like, they don't explain the backstory of the murderer. It's usually just, like, the kids, and they're out doing stupid things. Then, oh my god, there's a murderer here for no reason. Ah! Like, yeah,
And
it
that
was great.
idea of driving up to the mental hospital in the storm and there's just patients walking the grounds.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's a
Yeah, that
hell
was
of a visual.
horrifying.
I was like, what kind of mental hospital is this?
Yeah.
I will say, if you want a good, like, horror genre thing that does give a lot of backstory to the killer. Until Dawn is a very good horror video game that has an amazing plot, and it's very much a slasher video game, but it's like your choices make changes to who kills, like who dies in the game, and there's a lot of plot that goes on. So like the plot changes depending on who you decide to kill, and yeah, it's an interesting game if you like that sort of thing.
You know, speaking of games, did anybody else have this strong first-person shooter vibe going on in the beginning?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, clearly it was shot first person, but the way he picks up the weapon, you know, the way he picked up the mask on the floor, it just really felt like it came right out of Wolfenstein. You just see the hand come out, grab the thing, pull back out of frame. Mm-hmm. It really felt like a first-person shooter.
But one thing about that opening scene is that it really took me out of it because, like, obviously the cameraman is so much taller than a 6-year-old kid, and like you see him standing above the stove, and
I was thinking that.
Yeah, 2 feet taller than his sister and stuff, and it's just, I mean, that part hurt the movie for me.
I feel like that opening scene was the cheesiest, worst scene of the movie because like her death scene was so ridiculous. It was like somebody trying to sound sexy while they die. Like,
Yeah.
It's like,
Totally.
come on.
Oh, it was like that Austin Powers, like, oh,
Yeah.
like I'm very badly burnt.
I think for the 3 women who died in this movie, Carpenter was not casting for acting skill. He was casting for a very specific other criteria.
Boobs.
Unfortunately.
I just watched the movie Knocked Up for the first time, and all I could think was like, boobs, what's the time code? Boobs.
Are you running some underground website, Ash, that we don't know about?
No. That's
Like nipslips.com?
Have you seen Knocked Up?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thanks. I'm like, you're describing the plot of the movie, but you're accusing me of doing the plot of the movie.
That's almost certainly a real thing.
Oh, of course
Oh,
it
I'm
is.
sure.
Don't Google it. You'll regret it.
Or maybe you won't. I don't know.
It's true. You
Maybe
might
that's your
not.
thing.
Yeah.
Maybe you're into that.
That's my favorite meme is the "That's my kink" meme.
Oh, God.
Always something like a horrible and weird, and they're just like,
I mean, if somebody's kink is boobs,
that's okay.
that doesn't seem that weird.
Boobs while dying?
Boobs while
okay.
dying is weird.
Yeah.
Boobs
Yeah.
while dying.
I mean, that is Michael Myers' kink, right?
I guess
Maybe,
if we're gonna put that on
With a
him,
little bit of incest.
if we're gonna put that on him, I guess.
So there's 2 other, like, I don't think, no, this definitely didn't establish it, but 2 other, like, I don't know if you call them tropes or rules or ingredients you need to throw into a movie like this. One is there's a classroom scene, and the thing that is being taught in that classroom is extremely relevant to the story that you're about to see unfold.
Yes.
Like, that is a thing you've got to do.
Oh, I wasn't paying
The
attention.
other thing is, if they're watching something on TV, that is extremely relevant. But here in a very strange way, a really interesting way, that they were watching The Thing.
But not John Carpenter's thing.
It was the original version.
the original.
And he made his
okay.
remake like 3 or 4 years later.
Gotcha.
So it's like he really digs this movie.
Yeah.
Or he was already in talks about it.
Oh, yeah, it
Or
might have
it
been like his
was-
dream project that he was trying to get made.
Or it was like that was the classic horror film of that day, you know?
Yeah, it could be.
I think there's a lot you could have chosen. Like, it's very interesting that he was using a movie that he remade like 3 or 4 years later.
So what's the other thing? Oh, just the thing. In the, see,
Yeah,
I would say also the girl in a white shirt running and screaming, because that happens a lot in horror films, slasher films.
She was playing it really cool, like really calmly, like, oh, I spilled some butter. I guess I'm going to take off
Let me get
all of my
naked.
clothes,
Yeah.
grab a random shirt, wash my laundry in these people's appliances.
Can we also talk about how she was like the worst person ever who seemed like she hated her friends? Like anytime she talked to them, she was like, all right, bye. You know?
So the ADR attitude did not match the acting attitude. It looked like she was like having a good time, but she sounded like she hated them.
Yeah,
and so my
totally.
guess is the ADR sessions got a little long.
But that scene, like before she spilled the butter on her clothes and she's on the phone and she's just got this dead stare straight ahead, that I was convinced that she saw somebody outside of the house.
Yeah.
But that's not what she was playing in that scene. She was just standing there facing a window with this dead look in her eyes.
Well, she was on the phone, right? She was like talking to somebody. So
Sure, but it was, I don't know, it was weird. It was like a plank of wood.
Maybe. Sam gets me with that all the time, though. She's like, what are you looking at? I'm like, nothing.
yeah, I would believe she's just spaceyed out.
She's thinking about how she's going to get laid.
Yeah,
she's a
and
little
how she
distracted.
hates this
Yeah.
babysitting job.
I was like, poor Jamie Lee Curtis. She's over there thinking that literally all of her other friends are hanging out having an orgy.
Yeah. And while she's
Without
playing
her.
double duty on the babysitting, she like took over watching the neighbors' kids. Like, Yep.
Jamie Lee Curtis was amazing in this film.
Oh yeah.
She did a great job.
She was so great compared to literally everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like they spent their time like, we have to cast this one role
Yeah.
and then fill the rest of the movie with bodies.
How do you think Paul felt the next day when, he thought his girlfriend was coming over to have sex with him, and then he wakes up probably pissed off, and then wakes up and finds out that all of his friends are dead.
Oh man, yeah.
Oh, Paul's having a bad day.
I'm Sarah Koenig. Paul Johnson was expecting his girlfriend to come over for a hookup.
Yeah.
She didn't show up that night.
Oh my God.
This season on Serial.
Was that Paul that was calling nonstop?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah,
other
Paul needs to fucking just come over.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I get it now. I didn't know
sure
who was calling.
Yeah, they didn't say who was calling, but it probably was Paul. Like, what was her name? Annie? Allie?
Annie.
Annie. But, like,
Why would she pick up?
I just assumed it was Jodie Foster, like, calling, like, guys, can you come hang out with me?
Jodie Foster? Or
Jamie Lee
Jamie
Curtis.
Lee Curtis?
Jamie Lee Curtis, yeah, one of them. Well, Jodie
start with a
Foster
J.
wanted
Now
to
I've
be
got
in
this
the movie.
idea in my head that Jodie Foster's character was in this movie.
Yeah.
But everybody was so mean to her,
Nobody-
she didn't even show up on screen.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have gotten a little bit of more backstory for Michael on like why the psychology of why he constantly wants to wear the mask. Like I found that interesting. Like even to the point where when she rips it off his head in their final fight, like it stops him from killing her.
Well, did you see his face was deformed?
Well, it's because she stabbed him in the eye with the hook or the hanger. I think that's why it was
his
deformed.
face looked like more deformed than that.
There
I
was
don't know.
something up, and I'd like to think Mitch is right, because if not, there's no explanation for it. Unless something happened in those 15 years in the mental hospital.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, who knows how often he's been murdering? Like, I don't know.
But I'm with you, Mitch. Like, it seems like there's some meat on the bones that we didn't get.
Yes.
That he has to have the mask. He's only done anything violent when the mask is on. Does he link that to Halloween? He sees all the other kids doing scary, scary things with masks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then
There's a
the movie you're
psychosis here that I
talking
want to get
about-
into. And I think a good doctor probably could have found some of that stuff. Donald Pleasance.
Yeah, I feel like the movie you're talking about wanting to watch there is Silence of the Lambs. Like, that's kind of the other side of that, where
Yeah.
it was just like, I mean, would you really have wanted in this particular movie an extended scene where the doctor is like, his psychosis, he's reliving the trauma of that one murder from his childhood again and again by placing the mask on his face, never stabbing unmasked. Like,
Not necessarily, but there's some way to tell that story. And Silence of the Lambs is about somebody trying to diagnose that person's psychosis, and him being so smart he turns it around on her. Mm-hmm. That's a fascinating story.
I like the fact that we don't know. I mean, I think that makes him scarier, personally. Yeah. I think it's... And by the way, Mitch, I looked it up. You are correct. His face being deformed by his left eye is supposed to be the injury.
So it's just bad makeup.
You are right. Yeah. But I like the fact that we don't know why. Like, maybe it's like what Bret said, like he's reliving that night, so he felt like he needed a mask. But
it definitely falls into that better unanswered category for me personally.
It's like how the alien is better if you don't understand it, you know, the alien from Alien, you know?
Yeah.
I agree. I think they give you just enough information to make you ask more questions and make you more interested. Mm-hmm. Like, honestly, we've watched movies with way more plot, and I've been real fucking bored watching some of these things. Not ever once during this movie was I bored or, like, counting the minutes down, like, oh, God, are these 2 hours almost over? Like,
I mean, in comparison, we just saw A House with a Clock in Its Walls.
Yeah,
which
and it felt like a 4-hour movie.
Yeah. It had the same, like, slow, nothing's going on first half, but, like, it dragged.
Yeah, and, you know, there was a lot more convoluted plot in that film
They didn't set expectations.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, this movie was great, like you were saying, Ash, about, like, giving you just a little tidbit to be like, wait, what? What else? Like,
Yeah. So I have a funny story for you guys. Every year, Bryce's boss for Halloween comes to work with a mask on.
Oh, no.
And just stands there and says nothing, just creepily, and just stands there. And every year, Bryce is like, I don't know what the deal is with this mask. We sat down and watched this movie. He'd never seen it before. He was like, oh, it's the Michael Myers mask. He had no idea. And I'm like, oh, that's why she's not saying anything, I guess.
Oh, that's amazing.
So, funny story, kind of building on that. Bret and I went to Target the other day, and there was a girl wearing a unicorn mask doing the Michael Myers thing and just standing there.
Yeah, standing at the end of the aisle. But I think she was following us around.
She was following us.
Just standing in the aisle as we would walk by.
Yeah,
and
not
then, like,
moving.
a couple aisles later, there she was again, just standing and watching us.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That's exciting.
Target Adventures.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's a nitpick, but you talk about the strength of the butcher knife to impale someone and stick them to the wall.
Right. Yeah.
I know.
Or that there's no blood.
I know.
There's no blood, like, ever in
He
this movie.
slashed that girl's throat, and she wasn't
there's nothing.
bleeding profusely.
Yeah.
Maybe,
If I had directed this film, there would have been buckets of blood.
maybe he was just a very clean guy.
A clean cut. Yeah.
Michael Myers, he stabs the people.
No, he's like a
because
sushi chef, right?
he wants the people dead, but he doesn't really want to make a mess.
Yeah.
The house looks real nice, guys. Like, he doesn't want to mess it up.
I mean, he does clean up after himself. He always moves the bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw him cleaning up. Yeah. There was a shot. Guys, it's canon. Michael Myers is a clean freak.
That's right. He's Mr. Clean.
Mr. Clean.
Oh my God. No.
So, you know what else I loved about the big old knife? And I wonder if anybody else saw this, if I'm making it up, but like those opening credits where it pushes in on the jack-o'-lantern, until it's framed in a way that it's the corner of the nose and the eye that look like Michael Myers' head and the butcher knife.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that's intentional, but it was at that moment I'm like, okay, I think this could be really, really intelligent.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, that was like
the
on the
movie
poster, too.
right? Yeah.
But just that corner cropped down, or the whole
No. It was
face?
it was the pumpkin and the knife.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
was like a
So maybe that really was a thing.
Pumpkin in the knife. Sounds like a song.
Like Trogdor, like then the pumpkin comes in the knife.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't smell the reefer. Mitch, I think it's interesting you pointed out that Rob Zombie directed a remake of this. Because this is one of those things I've heard a million times, a song by White Zombie, I'm Your Boogeyman. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you know the song, but it begins with the clip from this movie. He's going to get you. He's going to get you. He's going to get you. And I've heard that song a million times. And so I didn't realize he sampled that from that scene in this movie.
Oh, wow.
Another case of that dude has been obsessed with X movie long before he got the opportunity to make his remake.
Right, yeah. No, I didn't know that.
Kind of cool. It's like that No Doubt song. I can't remember the song, but they actually sample the Spanish version of the warning announcement outside of one of the rides at Disneyland.
Yeah. It's the Matterhorn.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm, it's
and when I actually went to Disneyland and went on the Matterhorn, I'm like, what is happening right now? It's the intro to this No Doubt song.
So I really liked in the movie when now I keep wanting to call her Jodie Foster. Damn it.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
That's my
Jamie-
favorite character in the movie was Jodie Foster's character.
When Jamie Lee Curtis starts, like, she fights back, I thought that was so cool. And she actually, kind of defeats him twice.
She super defeated him.
Yeah.
Fuck that doctor.
Yeah, defeated him twice. And then I was totally bummed when the guy came in and shot him. And, like, then it was all over. I was like,
yeah.
Way to
But
be
she also constantly like would defeat him and then be like, I'm just gonna leave the knife like right next to you.
That drove me crazy.
Oh my god.
That's why I thought that the end wasn't the end. Because multiple times in this movie, it's like, okay, he's down, we walk away. And that was just a third example of he's down, we walk away. And then, okay, now, no credits are rolling? What? You know?
There was only one time, Nick, where the guy saved
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's more than just a joke. I think there's something to that.
Yeah, no, really. Like it's.
Yeah.
I think it's the whole movie. Like it's that. It's why I'm really curious to see the new one because I feel like that's what they're alluding to about the new movie is like this original was written in the context that all of that shit is normalized. You know, women need to be saved. You know, Jamie Lee Curtis, even though she's fucking stabbed him twice, couldn't actually save herself. That's not believable.
Well, you know, women are just too weak, so she couldn't like actually get the physical force to like stab it all the way. So she was just pricking him. But
Like,
Exactly.
It's
when she,
but no, not exactly. Totally joking.
Mina can't kill Dracula. Van Helsing has to show up.
yeah, exactly.
You know, it definitely felt like these archetypes.
Yeah.
At least he fucking finally did something besides standing outside for hours, only to notice the car that was there before he even got there.
Yep.
Also,
And what's with that sheriff?
yeah.
Why are you not taking any of this seriously?
Yeah. I mean, they're walking like what, a couple blocks away, close enough to see the murderer's car from the house where they think he's going to be, and they don't fucking hear Jamie Lee Curtis screaming help.
Totally.
Like, are you kidding me? That was a silent ass neighborhood. They could hear that like 10 blocks away.
Or the car horn.
The
when
car
Anna
horn.
dies.
Yeah, none of that.
Though I will say a really horrifying moment in this movie for me is when Jamie Lee Curtis goes next door and like knocks on the door and she's like, help me. Because that actually recently happened. I don't know if you heard that news story. There was a woman in Texas who they caught her on a ring cam. She was going around knocking on doors with handcuffs and like trying to get help, and no one would open the door for her. And the next day she was dead.
Oh my
And
God.
nobody
Because
called the cops?
Nobody did anything. They wouldn't
mean,
open the door,
It's
nothing.
very Stephen King. This just the town ignoring when this horrible thing is happening.
Well, it's very much like human nature, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, when the Thomas fires happened here, it was so interesting to observe people who would just continue about their lives as if nothing had happened. Like mothers walking, like the sky is full of toxic smoke, and mothers are walking their babies in strollers without any sort of protection on their face for breathing in the smoke. And it's just, I think it's a weird human nature thing where we like to pretend like nothing's wrong.
So I took a psychology class, and they actually like the lesson that day my teacher said was, I'm going to teach you how to save your life. And I was like, what?
Whoa.
And he told the story of this famous like 1940s, 1950s murder of this woman. I think she was in New York.
Talk about that.
Yeah, where she, lived in an apartment building, all her neighbors, and there was a guy attacking her, and she was screaming for help. Several of her neighbors looked out their window.
It wasn't just several. I think it was like 60 people.
It was a ton of people. They looked out the window, saw her getting attacked. Every single one of them thought, somebody's calling the cops for sure by now. Not a single one did. And the attack went on for like 35 to 45 minutes, and she died. And so my psychology teacher, he was saying, he's like, here's how you save your life. If you're in danger, you look the person in the eye, and if you know them by name, call them by name and tell them, you call the police. And it's a psychological thing. Like, if you're like, I'm not responsible for this, like somebody else is, I'm not the savior. Like,
although I think they're highlighting a different problem in this movie.
Yeah.
Because she was doing that. She was like, I'm knocking on your door.
Yeah.
Help me. And they were just like, nah.
silly woman,
Okay.
you're not in trouble.
So I had this situation. Neighbors have a baby. Baby starts crying in the middle of the night, wakes me up. That sort of stuff happens. But I looked at my watch, and it was well over 15 minutes of the baby just screaming and nobody going in there to take care of the baby. And I'm just like, at what point do I assume that everybody in that house is decapacitated and I need to do something about this?
So me and Sam watched Ryan and Kristen, our friend's kid, one time, and that we were attempting to stop it from crying and screaming, and it did not stop. It wasn't it at the time, and this baby cried for a couple hours straight, screaming.
Yeah, I mean, I was
You went in the room, though.
Oh, we were actively trying to stop it, and it would not be stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's also a parenting technique, Nick, that like some parents...
Luna was saying that.
Yeah.
And I guess, but
And also, like-
had all of those people except the baby been like killed by a gas leak, and I was the guy who didn't do anything,
Yeah.
this could be that story.
Yeah, but you could also easily be that dick who called the cops on the new
Right.
parents. Like,
So I'm like, what do I do? I don't know what to do.
And you definitely don't want to anger your neighbors again.
wait, you angered them before?
Well, I asked them not to park their car in the driveway, blocking my way to the garage, and that was an extremely offensive thing to do.
I really hope they listen
those
to this podcast.
Yeah, that's likely.
But yeah, it is a weird thing though. Like I've seen, there's been this common like internet. This is getting real like
Yeah, it's getting weird.
real. But I saw this thing going around that was just like, hey, whatever you do, never call the cops. Like the cops are the last resort.
What?
Yeah, and it was this thing where it was just like, because like if you don't know who you're calling the cops on, like even simple things frequently end up with people being killed. And so it's like, if you're calling the cops prepare for someone to die.
What?
Yeah,
No.
God, that's dark.
I think it's like a minority thing. It's seriously.
It was in that context.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It is something to take seriously, but I mean, I've never just like called for disturbances, you know? Like I've called the cops, like a guy ran into a stoplight and knocked it down. Like,
Or that time we were like rear windowing and saw our neighbor getting beat up by his wife.
yeah,
Oh,
it was the
God.
craziest thing.
She was kicking the
He
shit
was
out of
on the
him.
ground. She was like kicking him and punching him. They're like rolling around. It was the weirdest thing. And call the cops and they knock on the door and it all stopped and it never happened again.
Wow.
But
We should probably reel this whole thing back in.
all right, it went into friend zone. Sorry.
So why don't we bring it on home and get our final feelings on this? I'll go ahead and start. I think I might be in the minority where I don't think this was a bad movie. Certainly not. I think there's a lot of great stuff. But for me, a lot of it felt kind of flat, and it was unexciting for most of the movie. But I like seeing the thing that most likely built the foundation for a lot of other things. I feel like watching Nightmare on Elm Street, I see them taking a lot from this movie in Nightmare on Elm Street. And, you know, I think doing it in ways that felt faster paced and more engaging. But yeah, wasn't my favorite movie, but I thought it was pretty good. Sam, were you super scared?
No, but I'm shocked. I fucking loved this movie.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I was kind of a little anxious about watching it. I was a little worried, but I loved it. I think out of all of the like classic horror films that I've seen, which isn't many, this is definitely my favorite by far. Like, really enjoyed the crap out of this. I was shocked at how sophisticated it was, and I really loved how they manipulated the audience and how just masterfully they visually told this story. Like, super impressed. I never thought I'd be saying these things about Halloween, but yeah, I loved it. I was entertained the whole time, and I will make it a yearly tradition probably. So
there was one thing I forgot to say. Like, it is kind of appropriate that this movie is called Halloween because it felt like generic horror movie.
yeah,
And it's interesting that this name was taken by another movie much later down the line, but this movie could have very easily been called Scary Movie. Because it was just like the most base level, you know, of horror movie.
There was a quote in that article I was reading where John Carpenter was just like, I was shocked that in 70 years of filmmaking at that point that title hadn't been taken.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Ash, it seems like you probably agreed with Sam.
Yeah, I really liked it. I was enjoying it every minute of it, except for that really cheesy beginning. But yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, there's some things that don't quite hold up, but I think overall I was blown away by the cinematography and the storytelling. I thought it was really good, and I loved the suspense it built throughout the whole piece.
What do you think, Bret?
I got a few thoughts about this. First of all, I remember hearing a thing about it's a weird tie-in, but Toy Story and using the technology of the time to its maximum extent and getting what you can out of what you have. And I think one of the things that old movies are you know, there are golden examples, but I think there's a lot of really bad old movies, and it revolves around, even if it's got a great story, bad acting. And in this movie, they leaned on Jamie Lee Curtis, and they made the bad guy not fucking say anything. And so they had one really good actress and a guy who didn't really need to act too much, and they got the fucking mileage out of it.
Oh yeah.
And man, it was I said it already, but it was subverting my expectations because I'm so used to seeing movies that are riffing on those expectations or trying to subvert them themselves, and that's becoming played out. And it makes me wonder if there might be I don't have a name for it yet because I've been thinking about it for a few minutes, but I'm going to call it genre completion, where you start with the concept, you improve it over time, then you riff on it, and then the thing that is subverting the current theme is the original content. Where else do we go from there? And we might find out, I guess, in the new Halloween movie, but this might be a wrap on fucking slashers, guys.
I think you just repeat that pattern.
Yeah. But that's the thing. We might be repeating it. There might not be new content or not new ideas. There's new content, obviously, but there might not be new ideas, and that's a really bold statement to make. But just what I felt tonight was just like shock, like I was watching a modern masterpiece of, as masterpiecey as horror movies can ever be, which is weird because it's a movie from 1978.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, isn't the argument that there are no new ideas and that everybody's just telling the same story but in a new wrapper? You know
Maybe,
what I mean?
but this was one of the stories that everyone retells, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Mitch? You got anything as profound as that?
I don't think I have anything as profound as that, but I would say that I probably do agree with you the most, Nick, because, the movie just, it does fall flat for me. I think I was more impressed with the cinematography and the camera work through more than anything else. I didn't find myself just really interested in what was going to happen in the movie at all.
And this was a repeat viewing for you?
Yeah, like I said, I think I watched it. The last time I watched it was when the Rob Zombie version came out. So I watched this one to get prepared for that one. And then I definitely noticed the camera work more this time around, just keeping an eye out for that.
Mm-hmm.
How was the Rob Zombie one?
I mean, and I think that you hit on it earlier with the idea that when they make horror movies now, you have to have a killing every 10 minutes. It has to be a lot faster. You can't slow play the suspense, which is one of the things that I think I guess I've trained myself now because of those kind of things, that this movie seemed so slow to me. Mm-hmm. Even though that's what I was excited about. I was excited about the fact that it was going to try and build up that suspense. And I
mean, you can do that. I'm not saying you can't. Like the film.
Oh yeah.
Sam brought up earlier, There Will Be Blood, is just one long, suspenseful hour and a half until that last scene, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just that the trend, it's interesting to see. I feel like slasher films nowadays have taken the John Carpenter thing and like twisted it and like blown it out of proportion in the wrong ways. Like, let's not give backstory to the killer. Let's have like teenage girls that have nothing going on in their brains and like they just run and scream. They don't actually like fight back, and like, like it's been warped, I guess, in a weird way.
Like that Geico commercial. Did you talk about that?
Yeah, I didn't yet. So this whole time watching this movie, I keep thinking of this Geico commercial that we keep seeing at the movie theater, where there's all these teens like in the woods and there's being chased by a murderer. And they're like, why don't we just hop in the running car? And they're like, no, let's go hide behind the chainsaws. And like the punchline is like, don't make a bad decision like you're in a horror film. And the whole time Jamie Lee Curtis is like leaving the knife by the killer. Like she walks over him and doesn't make sure that he's dead. I'm like,
I was like, double tap.
Yeah, I did that too. Yeah,
Like I tell my boys, always put one in the brain.
But Mitch, I'm curious, like, do you think that you feel differently watching it now than you did a few years ago before the Rob Zombie one came out? You feel like your tastes have changed, or did you feel similarly back then?
I don't think it's so much that. I mean, I don't feel the same as I did back then. I know that when I watched it back then, I had absolutely no interest in it. This time I had a little bit more, but that's because I think I've come to appreciate movies a lot more as I've gotten older.
Gotcha.
I've got another question about that, I guess, for both Mitch and Nick, which is I realized while watching this, all of my Halloween memories were from H2O. So this was essentially a first viewing for me. And it seems like all of us first viewers enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, except for Nick. Didn't Nick?
Was this your
Nick?
first view, Nick?
Nick, you'd
Yes,
seen
this
it,
is my
right?
first viewing.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Never mind then.
You're just broken. I don't know what to say.
And I didn't like overtly dislike it, but I don't know. I just didn't think it was that great.
Wow.
Huh.
I thought
It was also-
pretty phenomenal.
Like me and Ash and maybe me a little more than Ash have watched a lot of slasher movies, and this was really good for that genre.
Yeah, for this genre, this is the peak for sure.
Yeah, maybe it just has to do with expectations too. Like, I mean, I was expecting like a straight up like gory slasher, like no substance at all.
There's no hostile eye cheese blowtorch thing.
Yeah, yeah, like
Jeez.
I don't know what that means, and I don't want to. But so
Someday we'll sit down and you'll watch Hostel and you'll understand.
No, thank you. I'm good. But I'm wondering if that has something to do with it too. Do you feel like, Nick and Mitch, that you had kind of high expectations going into it?
I don't feel like I had any expectations.
Okay.
I don't
I
think
like how Sam's
good,
trying
though.
to find a reason, like why don't you like this?
No, I mean it's just
there must be something wrong with the way you saw this movie.
It's a curiosity
No.
because
No, it's just teasing you.
We're so opposed on opinions here, but not like in a.
yeah.
But I don't think Mitch or I are coming out swinging against it.
No.
Like, it's
Yeah,
not a bad movie. It just, I don't
Exactly.
know. It kind
Like,
of
I
felt
feel
like
like we
it
saw a
lacked
lot in
a
this.
specific spark.
Yeah, and that's why I'm asking so many questions. Is like there wasn't something that you specifically came out and said that you didn't like. You're just kind of like, eh. So I want to know,
Yeah,
like,
we don't usually go this deep into like why are we disagreeing on this, but I feel like I really really enjoyed this movie, so I'm like super curious as to what was like not working.
Yeah.
I think the last like slasher films that I really enjoyed would have been like the Scream movies. So I guess that's the bar for me. And like I just felt like even though Scream obviously in that first movie takes a lot from this movie, it takes from Halloween, and they even reference back to it many times during the movie because it's all meta like that. So I don't know, I just feel like there's the part in there where I was expecting something like that. I don't know if I was expecting a twist. I was expecting some kind of like resolution at the end with Michael. I know it doesn't come until the second movie of Halloween. It's Halloween 2 where they do the whole like Laurie and Michael are related, but that's not a thing that they're going to do in the new set of movies. So
Spoilers.
I'm sorry.
I've never seen the Scream movies, so
Oh, really?
maybe it's good that I haven't, because that might mean that this is more enjoyable.
Well, I feel like that might tie into my like genre completion thing.
Yeah.
Like, Scream is like at the beginning of like the meta commentary on horror movies.
Yes.
Yeah, the whole point of Scream is to be the postmodern horror movie.
So like jumping in at a different point, because I feel like I really got into it at the end of the postmodern stuff, and a lot of the stuff we watched when I was younger, I was like, this is a terrible movie, but it was because I jumped in so late. And so I wonder if that ties in. I don't know. Anyway, just hypothesizing.
So, Mitch, where are we going to find you? Where are we going to find Geek Elite Radio? What's our best route to get there?
So you can find me on Twitter. That's the best place to do it. I'm at Mitchipedia, GER. GER stands for Geek Elite Radio. If you want to follow Geek Elite Radio, it's at Geek Elite Radio on Twitter and at Geek Elite Radio on Instagram, and then Geek Elite Radio on Facebook. Like we do most of the chit chat on Facebook. Like our community there usually interacts with us best there. But we also have a website, which is geekeliteradio.com, and we put out 4 to 5 podcasts a week. So you can
Holy shit.
Give us an idea of what sort of things. I saw some comic book hypothesizing sort of topics, some coverage of cons. Like what are the stuff we should look for?
Yeah, every Wednesday night, myself and another co-host, we have a podcast called Imagine If, where we sit there and we talk about a story that's very relevant to what's going on in either the movies, TV shows, or comic books of right now, and where that story came from in the past comic books. Or we take an idea like usually comic book, either Marvel or DC has a big crossover event, and we say what would that look like in the other company. So if you remember Civil War in Marvel, you say this is who's your Captain America, who's your Iron Man in DC, and why would they fight each other, kind of thing. So
isn't that Batman versus Superman?
I mean, you can go that way, but we try to not go with the more obvious one. Yeah. Thursday nights is usually a movie podcast that myself and another co-host do. That's the Mitch and Rich show that you talked about earlier. He is in film school at currently, so I usually come at him asking him what he thought of certain movies and how he looks at it differently now as to before he started film class. Sunday nights is our Geeks Watch show, and we go from show to show on that one, kind of like an after show. So it started off as a Game of Thrones after show, but then Game of Thrones wasn't on, so on the off season it became Westworld or Stranger Things or Black Mirror, just basically anything that's super popular at the moment. And then Tuesdays is a comic book, or is the podcast that's all about the different TV shows that are currently going that came from or are adapted from comic books. So your Arrows, Flash, Gifted, Runaways, Daredevil, all that stuff.
So basically your life is podcast, sleep, and eat.
It's too much podcasting.
That is so much. I'm very impressed.
Yes.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Does that mean that this is your second podcast of the day?
Well, I mean, it'd be the second one that's going up today.
Copy. So you don't necessarily record them on Tuesdays.
Right, exactly. Well, yeah.
All right.
I try and schedule it all for the weekends when I'm not working.
I was going to say, I feel really bad if we just made you spend like 6 hours recording podcasts.
No, I love it. I love talking to other people that have an interest, in movies and stuff like that. So I'm super happy to be on your guys' podcast.
Well,
I love to have you on.
Yeah, you're an awesome guest. You have a lot of great insight. We're glad you're here.
Have you done a show about Cloak and Dagger?
Yeah, the televised heroic show, the one that's on Tuesdays. That included Cloak and Dagger over the weekend or over the summer.
What do you think?
I was not impressed with it. I thought that the guy who plays Cloak was not great.
Yeah.
Other than that, I loved the setting, and I liked the idea that they were playing with the supernatural as well as powers. So it was like combining mutant powers and witchcraft together, or in that case, voodoo.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought Ash was gonna start it up again.
No, missed opportunity.
But I wasn't too impressed with Cloak and Dagger. Did you get a chance to watch, Nick?
Yeah, I'm just. It's a weird one. I'm having a hard time forming an opinion.
Yeah.
It's got such an unusual tone to it.
Very much so.
That it's. I certainly wouldn't say it's bad, but I don't know if I love it. I don't know. It's weird.
And I just think that the amount of comic book TV shows that are out there right now is so vast, and there's still more coming, that I don't know if we're going to be able to talk about all of them on our podcast anymore.
Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess there's one less now with Iron Fist being dead.
Yeah.
They can pound sand on that show. I'm just done.
I would say I enjoyed the second season a lot more than I enjoyed the first season, but I understand why they canceled it.
Yeah.
I feel like that is the exact take of literally everyone.
Yeah,
it got better, but Yeah, it should go.
I mean, if you want to make an Iron Fist show, make an Iron Fist show. If you want to make a show about Ward, like, fuck that guy. That guy is so boring.
Yeah, no kidding.
It seemed like they were more interested in making a show about that dude.
Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we could join into that conversation on your other shows.
Yes. Yeah. No, definitely.
You gotta have us on because Nick's got a lot of shit to say.
I got some opinions.
I would love it. I would love it.
Awesome, yeah. Well, thanks for joining us on this episode. Good talking to you, Mitch. Always great to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you like this show, it's part of the Last Dash TV network of content. It's this show, drinking show, video game parodies, and a lot of other fun stuff. Oh, and also a new YouTube channel where these podcasts also go. But I put a cool visualizer on it. So
with our faces.
If you like watching things instead of just listening to them, you can do our show there. And it's Let's Rewatch on YouTube.
Yeah, and if you're having trouble finding it because YouTube, I've tried searching for the channel name and it's really hard to find.
You gotta Google it.
If you go to the Laughstash TV YouTube channel, and that's youtube.com/Laughstash TV, you'll see it right there on the right. There's a column that says Other Cool Cats, and at the top there's a link to Let's Rewatch. Or if you scroll down, I also have a shared playlist there so you can get access to all of the videos there as well.
You would think that searching for a phrase on YouTube would give you the results of the thing where that phrase is the exact title.
Well,
but I guess that's not how it works.
Yeah, well, part of the problem is a couple months or year or so ago, YouTube changed it so channels under a certain amount of subscribers don't have unique URLs anymore.
Nope.
Yeah,
so technically your channel name isn't Let's Rewatch. It's like a string of numbers and letters that are just gibberish. And so that's
annoying.
why it's hard to find.
If you Google it, it shows up.
Okay. If you Google it, they will come. But yeah, and you can also follow us on Twitter. We're at Laughstash TV on Twitter. Or you can follow this podcast specifically. We're at Let's Rewatch, where I post fun stuff like the poll, where you guys chose the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good job.
That's where I found you guys on Twitter.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Mitch connected with us there.
I feel like Mitch is like our social team leader, manager.
Oh yeah, Mitch is very active on the Facebook account, which is our Let's Rewatch podcast group on Facebook.
Member of the show. Anyway, you're super active and I don't know, a good conversation. Your Twitter is hot fire. It's a good time out there.
Yeah, you're always proposing awesome questions on the Facebook page that make me remember really awful movies from my childhood that I had killed in my memory. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
If you liked this podcast, please give us a positive review on iTunes or Google Play. We're also on Spotify now.
Yeah, Spotify. And fuck yeah, dude, back in the 5-star zone on iTunes.
Yes.
Really?
We're up in the 4.5s again, which is kind of as good as you can aspire to be.
Yep.
Law of percentages.
We accidentally made some very liberal comments and made a Republican person.
Shh, don't do it again.
Okay, Brett, cut this out. Cut this out.
Click on a 1-star with my rage.
Oh man, there goes the rating.
Stars.
Okay, cut it. End the podcast now.
Oh yeah, I guess that's me. So thanks for joining us, and make sure your podcast feeds are up to date and tell all your friends, or just search for the show on YouTube. We'll be back for another episode of Let's Rewatch in another 2 weeks.
Yeah, next time we're going to watch another classic slasher movie, Shopping Mall.
Nice.